you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be reviewing Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare. It is the first book in a duology, which is the Hex duology, and the names, by the way, of these books are so very creative. This first book is called Go Hex Yourself and the second one is called What the Hex. Anyways, let's talk about what this book is about. Oh wait, first let me address this that I DNF'd this book in the last reading vlog you saw, and I wasn't really enjoying it, but I was into it. Like, I read 60 pages, and if I had to read it again sometime, because I own this book and I really wanted to read this book, so if I'd read it again, then I would have had to start it from the starting. So I didn't want it, and I just went through it, and it wasn't bad. So now let's talk about what this book is about and go through each and every good and bad point so that you will be clear on what you are getting into. Let's talk about this book. First of all, this book is about this old witch aunt who is looking for an apprentice, and this human girl is looking for a job. So she gets this job, but she doesn't believe in this witchcraft, in magic and everything like that, and that is why this aunt's nephew wants this girl gone. Why? Because she isn't familiar with this world and he doesn't believe in her. He doesn't want, someone who is not aware of how things work in their world to be this aunt's apprentice. And that is the whole, theme going on here, and that is how the romance starts, you guys, obviously. So first of all, let's talk about the romance only. I devoured this romance. I love how this guy treats our female main character, how he cares for her, how he respects her boundaries and respects her wishes, and I just ate that shit up. I loved this book in that case, but there were some issues as well. First of all, this cover is just so discreet because this book has spies, and if you don't want it, don't read those parts, or like skip this book altogether, because it has a lot of it and most of the chemistry that we get in this book comes from that. So you can skip it if you don't want that. One more thing is that this guy, you see it here, so cute, right? But the guy described in this book is just so muscular and hard and mysterious. Like, you can't really picture this guy like in the book. So it was like every time I opened this book, I couldn't relate to these images, so I was just kind of bummed about that. It's not a big thing, but when you are, when you have people on the cover, even in cartoon form, you kind of want to see like aspects of the character described in the book to be like them. So that is what I don't like. I love this cat, though it does represent someone, or like maybe two things. It can represent two things, so I'm not going to talk about that because obviously it would be spoilery. But there is witchcraft happening, there's always a cat. So that is something that bothered me. And another thing about talking about romance, I loved the female main character and her inner dialogue, and that is very important for me to like the romance, like care about the characters. And on that note, let's talk about the characters of this book. First of all, I hated the aunt. She had just no personality. She was acting so out of character. At one point, she's just so sweet, and another time she is like completely disregards the feelings of our female main character, throws her into this situation. Like, she is just out of her element and she was not described very greatly, so I wasn't enjoying reading her part because I couldn't decide what is she going to do. So that was something that I really didn't like. I liked our female main character's friend, Penny. She becomes her friend later on in the book, and I really liked her character. She's just so bubbly, and the next book in the series is her romance, so I'm just so excited to see that because I liked her so much as the character. I didn't like our female main character's main roommate friend, so that was something a lot of people said they liked, but I didn't. But this was all about how I felt about the characters in this book. There were a lot of characters, the bad and good, and throughout this book. Okay, let's talk about it in the plot section. First of all, let's also tackle the writing part, which this book has super easy writing. Even for beginners, you can understand this book if you are just starting your reading journey, and the story also flows at quite a good pace. So if you have issues into getting into writing that is super complex, super hard to understand, then this is a good book to start with if you're okay with the open doorness of this book. Next thing I want to talk about is the setting, the atmosphere, which this book lagged highly, because I was looking for a cozy, witchy romance with, atmospheric book. So when this book happened, I didn't get those gothic, mysterious vibe I was looking for, and it felt like a regular romance in my opinion, and that is what I didn't like about this book. When you see this cover, you kind of want those vibes, the potions, and all the magic-y vibes you can get, because at this time of the year you kind of want all the magic, all the witchiness, and that is what I was looking for in this book, but it didn't have any. It did, while introducing this book, it did have that kind of element, but things kind of fell through, and there was just the focus on this romance, and there weren't any witchy things happening, just the characters and making a huge thing out of the characters, but they didn't do anything. So it wasn't vibey in that case, and I didn't enjoy that. It felt like a regular romance. So if you're looking for those kind of vibes and expect this book to have them, you're in for disappointment. That is all I'll have to say. Also, I forgot to tell you guys that you are not going to see much of Aunt in the story throughout, so she's just in the beginning for you to get bothered by her, but the rest of the middle of the story is just focused on the romance, so you can read it if you want for the romance, because Aunt is not a huge plot of the book, and that is what I really liked, that she wasn't. Some characters you can't just deal with them. That is what this Aunt was for me, and I was really happy when the author focused on the romance instead for the most part of the book. But the starting is kind of slow, or not very likable for you to get into, because you see a lot of this Aunt, you see the insufferable female main character who is just not ready to believe magic is real, and this guy who is like trying to throw her off from this job. Yeah, it took me a while to get into this book. Even then I wasn't like enjoying it, but I was just reading it for the fun of it. Okay, let's talk about the plot for once. So about the plot, these two are kind of solving this mystery together, and that is what takes most of this book, and I really enjoyed it. Like, that is what made the romance escalate, and it was really interesting to see like they figuring things out and meeting these people and stuff like that. So that was really interesting, and while that came to an end, I was kind of skeptical I won't enjoy it, because things kind of were getting a little bit predictable, and I was annoyed. If you read this book, you will know why I was annoyed. But ending explanation and togetherness of everyone like made up for it, and I really enjoyed reading this book. Also, the pacing was medium throughout, so it wasn't a slow book. That is what like made me enjoy this book more, because if it had been slower, despite of it being only a romance book and not giving me those witchy vibes, I would have thrown this book out of the window. I do want to say that in the starting I was kind of pissed off by the aunt's behavior, because she wasn't just acting in a certain way, and our female main character wasn't just ready to believe that magic is real. When you are reading kind of a witchy book, you want your main characters to be aware that witches are real, or kind of believe in them, and then when they figure things out, you kind of want them to be fascinated by the concept and trying to find more and how this works and that works. So that element was kind of not there. So that is what bothered me, because she was just so clueless and not ready to believe even after seeing all these things. So that took me a while, and that is why I was bored in the starting and DNF'd it. But later on, the ending and romance did make up for it. So I rated this book a 3.5 stars, and I think that is a good rating. And while I am just explaining this to you, I think I really enjoyed this book and I miss it. I'm really happy that I did read this book. Also, I'm going to read the second book in the series, which is What the Hex, and I'm really excited because it has one of my favorite characters, which I already told you about, the friend of our female main character and an acquaintance of our male main character, and those two have truly opposite behavior. So I'm really excited to see how things go from that, but I won't be expecting any witchy vibes, because those weren't here and I just will read that book for the romance and to see how those characters got together. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this book review and it helped you decide whether you want to pick this book or not. And if you're planning to read it for the mystery element which I talked about, then I would say that it is not intriguing in that way that you care about solving the mystery, but you care about our characters getting together by it, because they're getting to know each other better, and you know, side by side you kind of have this mystery to solve. So that is what was going on, and not a lot of focus was given to having a lot of twists and turns. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and I helped you guys in deciding if you want to give this book a shot or not, or if you were looking for encouragement to read this book which is on your TBR for so long, then I encourage you to read it because of the romance, because of how the mystery ends. And yeah, all right, I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, goodbye.